ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి జేఈఈ అయినా నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్.
Good morning, welcome back. Today we are going to study the discovery of anode rays. So what is the basis? After the discovery of cathode rays, first thing is matter is electrically neutral. Matter not possess any net charge, so matter is electrically neutral. So after the discovery of cathode rays, there is electrons, negatively charged particles, right? Scientists thought that since matter is electrically neutral, there should be positively charged particles so that the charge of the cathode rays or electrons can be neutralized. Now the first experiment is done by Goldstein. He carried out discharge tube experiment. He made a small modification. Instead of a metal plate, he has taken a plate that contains holes. He has replaced cathode metal with a metal plate having holes, perforated cathode plate. We call it as perforated cathode plate. Perforated is nothing but these holes. You can see these holes. Instead of a metal plate, he is using a metal plate that contains holes. We call it as perforated cathode plate. Now as you can see, this is a glass vessel which is evacuated. That means we have removed all the air or other gases present, right, by applying vacuum. Then we fill it with some gas. This metal plate is connected to positive terminal of the external source or battery, so we call it as anode. Instead of metal plate, we are taking a plate which contains holes, perforation, which we call it as perforated metal plate. It is connected to negative terminal of the battery, right, so it carries negative charge. We have to call it as cathode or perforated cathode plate. So filled with some gas, applying high voltage, low pressure, applying high voltage and low pressure. So you know what happens? Cathode rays travel from cathode to anode. That is indicated with these green lines, right? Along with cathode rays, simultaneously he discovered, Goldstein, he found that some new particles started moving from anode towards cathode. So that is indicated by these red lines. You can see these red lines. These rays, they passed through the holes of the cathode plate or perforation of cathode plates. Hence they are called as canal rays. They are called as canal rays because they are passing through the holes of this cathode. They are called as canal rays. They are generated and travel from anode towards cathode. Therefore, we call them as anode rays. So he discovered, along with cathode rays, some new particles started moving from anode towards cathode through the holes of cathode. He called these particles as anode rays or canal rays because they are passing through the holes or perforation of cathode plate. They are called as canal rays. Right. Now let us study the characteristics of anode rays. First point, like cathode rays, anode rays can travel in straight lines, in straight path. Yesterday we have done some experiment. I have shown you that when light falls, it travels in straight lines. If I place a metal object, the shadow of the object is cast on the opposite side, right? If you do the same experiment here, if you place a metal object in the path of anode rays, its shadow is cast on the opposite side, indicating that anode rays travel in straight path. That is the first point. Second point, when you place a freely moving paddle wheel. Yesterday we have studied, when you place a freely moving paddle wheel, it is observed that the wheel started moving, it was set in motion, indicates that anode rays possess momentum, they possess mass, they possess velocity, so they possess momentum. So when a paddle wheel is placed in the path of anode rays, it was set in motion, indicating that anode rays possess momentum. Right, third point. When you apply the field, external field to this, right, placed to metal electrodes connected to the external source, in the absence that these anode rays travel in straight lines, but when you apply, say this is positive charge terminal, this is negative charge terminal, in the presence of this applied field, the anode rays are found to deflect towards cathode. Say this is called cathode, green one, black one is anode. They are found to deflect towards cathode. Cathode is negatively charged terminal, therefore it is concluded that anode rays must be positively charged rays or positively charged particle. So when you apply external field for these rays, they are found to deflect, indicating that they possess charge. By observing the direction of deflection, they are deflected towards cathode. That means they must possess positive charge, because cathode is negatively charged electrode. Coming to the next point, like cathode rays, these rays, anode rays, can cause fluorescence. When they fall on zinc sulfide screen, they produce flash of light, scintillation, right? So that we call it as ability to cause fluorescence. They possess, anode ray possess penetrating power. Here the penetrating power is observed to be more. So like cathode rays, they have penetrating power and it is found to be more. The next, sixth point, they can cause ionization of gases. You know the meaning of ionization? So these rays have ability to knock out the valence electron from neutral atom, resulting in the formation of a cation electron. So because of their momentum, kinetic energy, they have ability to knock out the valence electron. So you know, let us consider this is the atom, this is the nucleus. So when you allow these anode rays to fall, they are able to knock out the electron. They have that power. So they can ionize the gases. So they can cause ionization of gases. These rays, anode rays, they can cause physical and chemical changes. Physical and chemical changes. So let us recollect the characteristics of anode rays. The first point, they travel in straight path. Second point, right, they can rotate a freely padding wheel. They can set it in motion when it is placed in their path. Third point, in the presence of applied field, they deflect towards cathode, indicating that they are positively charged. Right, coming to fourth point, they cause fluorescence on zinc sulfide screen. Right, coming to the fifth point. Okay, so coming to the sixth point, they can cause the ionization of gases. Coming to the last point, they can cause physical and chemical changes. So these are the characteristics of anode rays. Right, like cathode rays, they calculated the charge and mass of anode rays. Right. So here one important point is what is actually happening here. Suppose in the discharge tube, if the gas is hydrogen, Hydrogen under these conditions it will dissociate into hydrogen atoms. Hydrogen atoms will ionize into H plus ion electron. H2 dissociates into H, giving rise to H plus ion electron. So here electrons are nothing but cathode ray particles, whereas this positively charged H plus proton we call it as anode or positively charged particles, anode rays. Suppose if I take sodium gas, it ionizes into Na plus ion electrons. Again you can see the negatively charged particle or cathode ray is electron itself, but the positively charged particle it is Na plus. H plus, Na plus, their properties are different, but here electron is same. That means cathode ray particles, irrespective of the nature of gas you are taking, irrespective of the nature of the particle you are taking, gas taking, cathode rays are same. Whatever the gas you take, the cathode ray particles are same, right? It doesn't depend upon the nature of the gas. But when I come to anode rays depends upon nature of the gas. So here H plus is, the anode rays consists of H plus when you take hydrogen as gas. The anode rays consists of sodium ions when you take sodium gas. So anode rays depends upon nature of the gas. Cathode rays are independent of nature of the gas. That is another point I want to explain, right? So one more, we are left with one more subatomic particle. So these positively charged particles or anode rays were discovered by Goldstein. Discovery of neutron. Neutron was discovered much later, right, in 1930s, not in 1800s. So it was discovered in 1930s, but I would like to explain here itself, right. So discovery of neutron, it was discovered by Chadwick. Chadwick is the name of the scientist. In 1930 he discovered this. What he has done is he has bombarded beryllium nuclei. He has bombarded beryllium nuclei with alpha particles. Alpha particle is nothing but helium nuclei. This is beryllium atom, beryllium element bombarded with alpha particle, nothing but helium nuclei, which undergoes a nuclear reaction resulting in the emission of carbon and some new particles. When he has done this reaction, when he has bombarded beryllium nuclei with high energetic alpha particle, it undergoes nuclear reaction resulting in the elimination of carbon and some new particles are eliminated. These new particles are not affected by the in the presence of external field. When you apply external field, they do not deflect. That means they do not possess any charge, right. So these new particles he called them as neutrons. So how to balance this? Add this mass number, 9 plus 4 it is 13, 12 plus 1 13, 4 plus 2 6, 6 plus 0 6. So this is the discovery of electron, proton, neutron, right. Electron was discovered by say J.J. Thomson, proton Goldstein, neutron by Chadwick. So let us study their charge and mass. So the first one is electron. Electron is represented with symbol E, small e. Coming to the charge, already we have studied. In 1 unit, minus 1.602 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs per kg, or in electrostatic units, minus 4.8 into 10 power minus 10 ESU, electrostatic units. Mass. The mass of electron is found to be 1 by 1837th of mass of hydrogen, or in absolute value it is 9.109 into 10 power minus 28 grams. Coming to the next one, that is proton. So general symbol we write H1H. Charge same but opposite charge, so plus 1.602 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs, or plus 4.8 into 10 power minus 10 electrostatic units. So equal but opposite charge. Coming to the mass, it is taken as approximately 1.008 AMU atomic mass units. And if you see the absolute mass, 1.672 into 10 power minus 24 grams. So how you got these different values, that we'll study in stoichiometry. For the time being, just try to, so already we have studied this. So here how to find the absolute mass, that we'll study in the later classes. Now this is relative scale, this is absolute value. Coming to neutron, the charge of neutron is 0, no charge. Mass approximately equal to that of proton but slightly higher. Or 1.675. So this is the table, right? Particle, charge, mass. So one important question generally they ask here is, they will ask you to find specific charge ratio. Specific charge ratio is charge to mass ratio, we call it as specific charge ratio. Charge to mass. That is nothing but E by M. E represents charge of the particle, M represents mass of the particle. This we call it as charge to mass ratio or specific charge ratio. Right, particularly they ask for electron, proton, neutron, alpha particle. Electron, proton, neutron, alpha particle. So here to find this, what we do here is, we consider this as 1 unit. Sorry, this I have written on. Sorry, here this is only in coulombs because it is charge. So we consider this as 1 unit. So I am writing this as, this entire value will take as 1 unit minus 1 unit. Then here it becomes plus 1 unit. So I am going to use this, instead of taking all this value, what I will consider this as, I will consider as 1 unit to find the charge to mass ratio, and mass I will take in AMUs. So here 1.602 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs, I am considering it as 1 unit. I am considering it as 1 unit, and mass I am taking in, I am expressing in AMUs. So let us start now. We have particle, electron. So I will start, I will write a table like I'll make a table here. Particle, charge, mass, E by m value. Right. So first one is electron, charge. Right. I have to take this one, but I'm considering this whole thing as 1 unit. So this is 1 unit. Mass in AMU 1 by 1837 of hydrogen. Hydrogen mass is this one, approximately 1. Right. So its mass will be 1 by 1837 into 1. I'm considering this as 1 unit. I'm neglecting this value. Let's say 8. So here E by m 1 by 1837, which ends up with 1837. So if I want to compare, they must be in same units. So I'm considering charge in units, 1 unit coulombs, and this much coulombs I'm considering it as 1 unit, and mass I am taking in AMUs. Coming back to here, I have to take 1.008, but I am neglecting this 0.008, so approximately I am taking this as 1 AMU. Proton. What is the mass of proton? This one in AMU 1.008. So let us take it as approximately 1. Coming to mass is 1. Coming to charge. Charge of proton is 1.602 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. This much value I am considering this as 1 unit. So it becomes 1. No, 1 by 1 is 1. Now next, neutron. What is the charge of the neutron? Charge is 0. So let us write 0. Mass approximately equal to that of proton. Approximately equal to that of proton. So mass of the proton is 1 itself. 0 by 1 is 0. The leftover is alpha. Alpha particle is actually He plus 2. So this is nothing but helium nuclei. 2He4. So this is atomic number, this is mass number. Atomic number, mass number. So He plus 2, as you can see the charge is plus 2 and mass will be 4 AMUs. 2 by 4 will be 1 by 2. So this is the E by m ratio of electron, proton, neutron and alpha. So if you want to arrange them, you can arrange them in the increasing or decreasing order. So increasing order, let us write. So small to high value. So which is the smaller one? Neutron less than alpha less than proton less than electron. Neutron, alpha, proton, electron. So let us study atomic models. So atomic models explains the internal structure of the atom. Different scientists have proposed to explain the arrangement of subatomic particles in atoms. So let us start with the first basic one, that is watermelon model, which is proposed by J.J. Thomson. Watermelon model, raisin pudding, plum pudding model, or simply plum pudding model. It is proposed by J. Thomson. It is proposed by J. Thomson. So, what he has proposed, what he has tried to explain, he proposed that electrons are embedded like seeds in watermelon. Electrons are embedded in a ball of positive charge like seeds in watermelon. So, first let us see if you take a watermelon, right, it contains the red pulp, and the seeds. So, let us imagine this is watermelon, the red pulp and seeds. J. Thomson proposed that electrons are embedded like seeds. You can see these black seeds, right? Like that, electrons are arranged in a ball of positive charge. So, he compared this red pulp with positive charge and the seeds as electrons. The red pulp is considered as positive charge. Say this is the ball of positive charge, the red matter, the red color. This is a ball of positive charge which is distributed throughout the ball. The positive charge is distributed throughout the charge like the red bulb, in which the electrons are embedded. Electrons are arranged, you can say like this. So, electrons are embedded in a ball of positive charge like seeds in a watermelon. So, the advantage of this theory is the first point. According to this theory, since the red pulp is uniformly distributed, right, like positive charge is uniformly distributed, right, that means the mass is uniformly distributed throughout the atom. The mass is uniformly distributed throughout the atom. The second point is it explains the electrical neutrality. That means it shows the positive charge as well as negative charge and tries to explain that atom is electrically neutral. So, you can see 2 points. One is mass is uniformly distributed throughout the atom. The second point is it explains the electrical neutrality. But later studies have shown that it poses defects, right? That we will study in Rutherford atomic model. So, this is about J. Thomson. He proposes that electrons are embedded like seeds in a watermelon. So, let us study the second one, that is Rutherford atomic model. Rutherford alpha scattering experiment, you can call it as, or simply Rutherford experiment. Ruth has done this experiment, right? Rutherford and co-workers have done this experiment. So, let us proceed. So, what is the experimental requirement? Let us see. This is lead block. This is a radioactive element. So this is fluorescent screen, right? These are nothing but alpha particles. Now this is metal foil. It can be gold, silver, copper. So of thickness 0. So I'll light some up. This is the thickness, so usually it can be gold. So what is actually happening here? A radioactive element undergoes spontaneous disintegration, right, into smaller nuclei. Along with that, it emits some nuclear particles. One of them is alpha particle. So we take a suitable radioactive element enclosed in a lead block to prevent any side emissions, right, so that we get a stream of alpha particles. Right. So it is directed onto a metal foil. So usually it can be gold, silver or copper of 0.004 centimeter thickness. So this gold foil is surrounded by a fluorescent screen. It is surrounded by a fluorescent screen coated with zinc sulfide. So when these alpha particles fall on this metal foil, right, they can penetrate, and when they collide or when they strike the fluorescent screen, they produce scintillation. Scintillation is nothing but a flash of light. We can see that flash of light. We cannot see these alpha ray particles, we cannot see any of these, right, but when they produce a flash of light, we can see them. So here it is made, this is the experimental arrangement. So what is trying to study? So if I take a metal foil, metal sheet, say gold, it is made up of gold atoms. So if J.J. Thomson model is correct, what should be the observations? And if it is wrong, what should be the observation? So first, let us study the observations done during this experiment. The first point is, most of these alpha rays are found to travel straight. They went straight without any deflection. So most of the alpha particles, 99% of the alpha particles emitted from the radioactive source, they went straight without any deflection. That is the first observation. The second observation is, very few alpha particles deflected with small angles. Few alpha particles are deflected. With small angles, few alpha particles are deflected. And the third important point is, 1 out of 20,000 alpha particles, that means very few, 1 out of 20,000 alpha particles bounced back, that means it traveled straight, collided and came back in the same path. So these are the three important observations. Once again, most of the alpha particles went straight without any deflection. Second point, few alpha particles are deflected with small angles. Third point, 1 out of 20,000 alpha particles almost bounced back in their original path. These are the observations. To explain these observations, he made few conclusions from these observations. So what is the first observation? Most of the alpha particles went straight without deflection. This indicates that the atom must be hollow, the atom must be empty. So what is the meaning of that? Suppose if I consider this as the atom, right? Now here one more important point is alpha particles. You should know this, alpha particle is nothing but helium nuclei He plus 2. It carries 2 unit positive charge compared to proton. So it is a positive charge particle. We know that like charges repel. So if this alpha particle comes near to positive charge, then it must be repelled, right? So let us come back to Thomson model. According to Thomson model, the positive charge is uniformly distributed throughout the atom. The positive charge is uniformly distributed. So if alpha particles, if they come across this positive charge, that means they must experience a repulsion. Alpha particles carry positive charge. According to Thomson model, the positive charge is uniformly distributed throughout, right, like red pulp. That means when these alpha particles comes near to the red pulp, they must be repelled. That means most of the alpha particles should be deflected because the red pulp is uniformly distributed, but that is not happening. Why that will not happen? It will not happen if the positive charge is not uniformly distributed. Most of the alpha particles went straight without any deflection. That means most of the atom is empty. Very few are deflected. So the first point, the first observation, right, indicates that atom should be hollow, atom should be empty. Otherwise, most of the alpha particles cannot pass through without deflection, right? Second point, few particles are deflected with small angles. When they will deflect? If they come near to the positive charge. So unlike Thomson model, he proposed that positive charge is not uniformly distributed, but it is concentrated over a small volume. It is concentrated over a small volume or small space. He called this space as nucleus. He called this space or volume as nucleus. So when these alpha particles comes near to this alpha particle, comes near to this nucleus or positive charge, experience repulsions and gets deviated from its path. Right. So the second conclusion is the positive charge is not uniformly distributed, but it is concentrated over a small region which he call it as nucleus. Coming to the third point, 1 out of 20,000 reflected bounced back. This indicates that if alpha particle directly, if it is in the direct path of approach, it experiences huge repulsion, large repulsion, hence it is bounced back. This also indicates that the nucleus is rigid and hard. So it is not able to penetrate it. So it indicates that nucleus must be rigid and hard. So let us study the three conclusion points once again. Most of the atom is hollow or empty. The second conclusion is positive charge is concentrated over small space or region which he call it as nucleus. Third conclusion is the nucleus must be hard and rigid. He proposed another point to explain the electrical neutrality. Electrons revolve around the nucleus like planets revolving around the sun. So this path in which the electron revolves, he called them as circular paths, he called them as orbits. So this model is also known as planetary model. So electron revolves around the nucleus like planets revolving around the sun. So these are the important points regarding Rutherford atomic model.